Welcome to Smarter Strategic Thinking, where we invite industry leaders into our podcast to discuss everyday IT infrastructure solutions that businesses face on a daily basis. My name's Ray Quattramini. I have 41 years experience selling IT infrastructure solutions from tape to disc to optical across the globe. If you like us, give us a thumbs up or give us a thumbs down, depends how you are. If you want to follow us, we're going to have quite a lot in these series, and thank you for joining. Thank you, Tim, for coming in.
Pleasure.
Do you want to start by explaining your job title and how you came to join Lenovo?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So firstly, thank you for the invitation. I've been looking forward to today. My role at Lenovo is I'm the TruScale Infrastructure as a Service channel sales lead. So what that basically means is everything from working with the likes of yourselves to help onboard TruScale, to help drive the opportunity and to get that message out to market is kind of my focus today. I've been at Lenovo for 5 years. I've been in this role for 2 years. So, 5 years isn't a long time in the world of Lenovo, considering we've been around for 25, 30 plus years. But so yeah, I still learn every day in the business. I started in the business going back 20 plus years, I think. Is
showing your age now.
Yes. Trying not to show my age too much, probably. But yeah, it's going back 20 plus years. I started in a little company called Time Computers. They were based up in the Northwest.
Yeah, Blackburn.
In Blackburn, yeah. So it was a mail order kind of organisation. But I think it was around the time the internet was coming out. Our biggest competitor was Dell from a PC perspective as well at that time. So I don't think Time exists anymore, but look at where Dell has gone. So as you can see, Dell came out the winner in that race. But yeah, so I started selling PCs to home users, and then it kind of evolved there, working for a number of resellers, moved into telecommunications, and then and now back into the IT business.
What excites you the most about what you're doing? Because obviously, from our perspective, TruScale is relatively new.
Yeah.
And how what excites you on that respect?
So TruScale as an offering has been around for, I think it's about 4 or 5 years if you look at it from the PC side of things, but from an infrastructure, it's probably about 2.5, 3 years. So it is still sort of quite embryonic in the world of IT or in the world of Lenovo. So for me, the excitement is getting that message out there, working with partners, working with customers, talking to them about how an as a service can help transform their business and help change their business. It takes them from a completely different concept of where it's just been capex.
Yeah.
They're just buying the hardware, adding some software onto that, maybe adding some support services onto it. TruScale is a end-to-end, fully managed service offering today that customers can buy that can help change their business. It gives them the flexibility in terms of how they want to pay for their technology. A lot of businesses are making that capex or do make that capex investment, but they don't do it when they're buying their fleet of cars or their fleet of vans. They always finance it or structure it. So we're looking to sort of take that concept a little bit with TruScale in terms of giving that flexibility from a funding perspective, but then wrapping a lot of services in there as well, which benefits some organizations. With the changes that we've made on TruScale or about to change on TruScale, we're actually going to make it so customers can pick what service elements they want. So for the smaller organizations, they may not want the full-blown managed service because then that kind of adds some additional cost to it. They may just want the deployment, and they might want some Premier support, or in terms of the support piece of it, because that can then bring down the cost. It can then fit into their business model a little bit more, and then they can just pay for what they need, and we can pay it on a financial structure that works for them as well.
Right.
So, yeah, so I get excited about trying to, drive this message out to the customers, working with the customers, and working with the likes of yourselves to help drive that message out and grow the business.
Obviously, from our perspective, TruScale has been evolving, especially in the last 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do those different service offerings, what is it you're providing now? Because I know you've got quite a few tiers now that you never had. So do you want to explain what sort of tiers of TruScale you can provide? GPU as a service as it comes to mind.
Yeah, so TruScale is the kind of umbrella for our everything as a service. So under that, we have our device as a service, we have our motto as a service, which is our mobile. Then we have the infrastructure as a service, which is where my focus is. But what we're starting to introduce under that, like you say, is the tiers, is the GPU as a service is coming out, or going to be launched in earnest from a channel perspective later on this summer, in the next few weeks. And that's going to bring out more of that benefit. GPU is an expensive technology, or the high-end technology which businesses are needing for their AI platforms to sit on. So we're going to be looking at how we can adapt that, bring it out as a service, which then makes it more, offers, a financial construct for the businesses to do that, so they can pay for it on a monthly as a service. Whether that's a fixed or a variable service, we can do that as well from a GPU as a service perspective as well. But then we're also going to be looking at how we can do it from an AI perspective. What AI as a service, we're looking at how we can deploy that as part of TruScale as well. We're doing a lot of consultative work with our customers on how they can monetize AI, or how they can utilize AI within their organizations as well. So we're going to have that full stack of technology and full stack of service offering available to our customers, depending on their need, depending on the size of the organizations. One of the things that we wanted to do with TruScale was to get it to fit into that smaller business market as well. TruScale, I think personally, was only really kind of suited for the larger, or the mid-sized to large organizations. So we were missing an opportunity in that SMB space for, the sub 500 user kind of space, with the changes we're going to do now, and still incorporate GPU, but it being a scaled back kind of GPU offering. We're going to scale back the service offering of TruScale as well to make it fit that kind of need as well.
Yeah, and TruScale, from an infrastructure perspective, covers, you've just revamped all your storage, for example. I think it was 66% you've just changed all your storage arrays. You've obviously got now new AI servers, and you've also got networking. So from an infrastructure point of view, that all comes under the TruScale umbrella.
Yeah.
And when I was at the Lenovo Accelerate, I actually spoke to some of your TruScale representatives on the stand.
Okay.
And she actually told me we can also cover non-Lenovo kit upon request.
Yeah.
So that again wasn't there 6 months ago.
True. I mean, with TruScale, we offer a lot of flexibility for the customer. So we try to, and the flexibility can be around the financial model. And they may want to pay more up front, and so they pay less on a monthly basis, or they may want to have that variable so that they can, it fluctuates depending on their usage. But then we can incorporate a lot of services as well, depending on what the customer requirements are. And we have incorporated third-party technology as well. Because we can work with our financial organization, Lenovo Financial Services, to incorporate all of that within the solution. We're not precious, I'd like to say, in terms of what technology we want to put in there. Obviously it needs to sit on, Lenovo infrastructure or storage. But then if there is third-party requirements that are needed, whether it's Cisco or whether it's another, we can incorporate that into the actual solution. So our solutions architects that we have work very closely with the customer to meet the customer requirements, because every customer is different, and what they're trying to do or how they're trying to transform their business may need that we have to be flexible or incorporating other solutions. But we do that in conjunction with the partner as well, because the partner has that breadth of technology within their portfolio, which we may want to then incorporate into that. So, and also the partner can then support the customer because they can offer their support services as well. So we can just all then wrap it all into one single bill, so to speak, for the customer, along with the services, along with the hardware, along with the software, along with that third-party tech as well. It's all in one.
And one of the other things that we're coming across is you can also do it as a fully managed service. So from a client's perspective, they can have hands off, and you guys manage the whole of the infrastructure that you're under the TruScale banner.
Now, it obviously depends on the customer requirements, but that gives them the benefit. Some of the larger organizations will look at that and then they'll say, okay, so I can free up X amount of IT resource to focus on other areas of the business that can help them monetize, other parts that they need to help drive. So organization can then sit back, relax. It's in the hands of Lenovo. We will look after that. We manage that. We put in customer success managers onto every TruScale customer, and they will manage that and work with that customer for the lifetime of that contract, just to make sure everything runs smoothly. Make sure that if there's any additional requirements that may come up throughout the lifetime of that contract, then the CSM would work with the customer, work with you as the partner, to identify what needs to be done to help ensure that we're delivering a service as described within the scope of works.
One of the questions I've got here is, are there any misconceptions about TruScale that you often come across?
I think the biggest one is, if you do a comparison against TruScale against a CapEx. So if you're, a lot of people will perceive TruScale as expensive, but it's not expensive. You can't do a comparison of a as a service against a CapEx, because it's not like for like. It's not apples for apples. It's the as a service or TruScale is, like you say, as I say, it encapsulates a lot of other things from, yes, it has the hardware, yes, it has the software, but it's that managed service piece that you're giving the assurances to the customer that they're actually going to get something put in that they won't have to then worry about. It frees up the resource, enables them to transform their organization as well. So that's probably the biggest misconception. There is a service in there, so it is going to be slightly more expensive, but that's because of what the customer would be buying is not just a piece of tin.
Yeah, one of the things, from an offering of finances, there are tax benefits to offering it as a service that you don't get when you buy a CapEx. Yeah. So if we've got a new client today and they want to know about TruScale, talk them through how, from the initial conversation to deployment, how long is that likely to take and what the steps involve?
I suppose that depends on what the requirement is and the size of the organization. If you're looking for a small business that just wants some compute and storage, the idea with the new model that we're bringing out is that can be more partner-led rather than involving, Lenovo into those complex conversations. So the idea is that you can then, the partner would be able to configure a TruScale solution for that customer. That's a quick and easy process, and then it can be deployed within a matter of months. The more complex solutions, if you're then starting to look at how we can how we can incorporate AI technologies or requirements into what the customer needs, if there's multi-sites, so it can depend on what the overall requirement is to then the sales cycle. It can go from, being for a couple of months up to 6 to 9 months from sort of finalising the design or starting the conversation about what the requirement is to finalising the design to deployment. I mean, the processes we go through, the more complex, then we have our team of solutions architects based within Lenovo that will work with yourselves as the partner, talking with the customer to go through the steps in terms of initially scoping out what is required, or what their requirement is, or what their business challenge is, or what they're trying to transform within the business, or what they're trying to do with AI. And then we'd start to then look at what technologies we're going to incorporate. If it's going on GPUs, then we need to work out, the size of the devices, the technology that we're going to be putting in, how much storage is going to be needed, what other third-party software we're incorporating. And then we need to look at, who's going to do what. What does the customer want to support some of it? Do you as the partner want to be involved and support some of it, or are you going to hand it all over to Lenovo? So there's all those key steps which the solution architect would be involved in, along with our TruScale seller team as well, just to make sure everything's on point. We will capture that into a final scope of works, so that details everything out that that we've worked on with the customer, who's going to deliver what, who's going to manage what part of the service as well. And then once that's signed off, we will then deliver that as per what we've agreed. So there's a number of key steps that we go through, but ultimately it comes down, once we've signed off, it takes a month or so for delivering the kit, depending on how much kit is going to be needed. And also, if we're doing a lot of configuration of the kit before we're shipping from from manufacturing, which is in Hungary, then that could take a little bit more time. But then, once deployment starts, then, it doesn't take too long.
One of the other things, any clients on TruScale, you can also have like a technology refresh. How does that look from a client's perspective?
The idea with a TruScale agreement is that in most cases they're 3 to 5 years. If they're on a 3-year agreement, We don't normally do too much of a refresh within that. We'll design the technology, we'll design the requirements to fit what the customer needs today and also what they may need for tomorrow within that 3-year timeline. If you go into a 5-year, then there may be the need to have that tech refresh. So we can look at that at the time of the contract, but in most cases, the CSM would be sitting down with the customer at that 3-year point and saying, okay, how's everything performing? Are we at capacity? Do we need to bring in more technology? Do we need to refresh the technology? And then we'll probably just do a refresh of the overall agreement to see how we can then incorporate the new tech. Things are moving so fast these days. A lot faster than they have done, I think, over the last couple of years. But, we're seeing things really shifting really quickly at the moment. So, yeah, I expect what a customer wants in 3 years' time will be a lot different to what they have today, especially with the evolution of AI, as that probably stabilizes a little bit more.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so there will be, a lot of that ask going forward, I think.
From an IT point of view, you obviously must get some pushback from we've always been a HP house or a Dell house or whatever. What are the misconceptions that you come across? Because it's like, I was going to take my job, or, how do you overcome that?
Yeah, we haven't had too many cases of where the technology is going to replace people's jobs. Conversations we have is more about, okay, we can bring this IT in to free up my resource, which is overstretched today, to be able to focus on other areas of the business that need to, whether it's to look at how their payroll system's deployed, or, how other technologies can help to structure a transformation within the business, so that resource can then be reallocated. So we're not seeing a lot of cases of, people not deploying it because they think they're going to have to make a lot of redundancies, unless that is what they're trying to do as a business.
Possibly.
If they are trying to streamline, so Microsoft have announced today, 6,000 redundancies within their organization because they see AI changing that. So that's probably an extreme, from a large organization, which is obviously at the forefront of AI technology at the moment as well. So, but in most cases, we're seeing it that they take the technology to help free their resource to then focus on other areas of the business that can help them grow that business.
Obviously, companies have been buying traditional hardware from the big vendors. What are the hurdles that you face? Because Lenovo is known for its laptops, notebooks, Chromebooks.
Mm-hmm.
How do you overcome that? Because Lenovo isn't just that. It makes a lot of other kit, labels a lot of other kit, and it has a lot of infrastructure behind it. So how do you introduce that from a company that's been, for example, HP house for 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that can be a challenge, I suppose, getting a business that has been predominantly buying from our competitors for a long period of time, getting to understand what Lenovo can do. And I think that's probably one of the first things is really, in some cases, is an eye-opener for some organizations, because they will turn around and just say that, oh, I thought you just sold PCs. Yeah. But when you look at our breadth of product and our breadth of portfolio, we've got all sorts that can match all sorts of requirements for customers as well. So, take infrastructure, we have some very good technologies and storage technologies as well, which we want to get our customers to buy more of. So it's a educational process. Our salespeople go in with a strong messaging. We can, from a TruScale perspective, we can actually run a number of POCs. We've got a partner opportunity at the moment. We're going to sit some of their software requirement or their software on some of our servers in one of our test centers, and they can run the test over that remotely for a period of time just to see how it performs compared to what they have today. So we can provide a number of POCs, a number of test bed opportunities. In some cases, we can actually provide hardware as well for the customer to then actually sit it into their data center and test it. But it's the usual thing of trying to get the foot in the door with especially if your competitors have been there for a long period of time. But we have some great case studies, some fantastic case studies. You mentioned your Accelerate, FIFA. We're the leading technology partner for FIFA World Cup next year. Formula One, we're the number one technology partner for Formula One as well. Look at what they do on a weekly basis. Everything is being delivered by Lenovo from a technology perspective. So they're taking kit, traveling it around the world. It's sitting in a plane. It's sitting on the tarmac. It's all being boxed up, unboxed, and every couple of weeks they expect that kit to work, and it does work. And we never see any problems in terms of what you're seeing on the screen as being sat and delivered by Lenovo technology. So we have some great references. I think the Formula One is probably one of the strongest ones.
And the motorbikes, F1 motorbikes.
And the motorbikes as well. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So we have some great references to be able to prove to our customers that our technology is leading edge.
And it's also highly performant. You have a lot of SPC benchmarks. You power some of the world's largest supercomputers. Lenovo are under the covers. They're quite quiet about what they provide.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out, after this conversation, how many people looking at this think, would they consider using Lenovo now?
Yeah. Hopefully so.
Well, this is it, and that's why we're a Lenovo partner, because we just thought you've got a lot of breadth to what you deliver. Yeah. You've got a lot of facts, figures, reliability, SPC benchmarks, as I mentioned, and it's just customers they're all running Intel, they're running AMD. Depends what your preference is.
Yeah.
They may be using Cisco.
Yeah.
So, and Lenovo to me are a very innovative company. They're quite groundbreaking. Like you've got Neptune now, which is water cooling, so there's a lot of energy savings. And all this can come under the TruScale umbrella.
Yeah, we're doing more and more from a sustainability perspective as well, which is a really big key thing for a lot of organizations. What do they do with the asset when it comes to the end of it? We can provide asset recovery services. You mentioned Neptune, which is the water cooling, which is fantastic technology, and that is an energy saving technology, which then provides a benefit to the end customer. There is a lot that we can deliver. We've just got to
start shouting about it a bit more, haven't we?
Exactly. We do. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that we need to do more of. Certainly from the non-PC side of our business, because everybody knows Lenovo from a PC. We're number one globally, and we have been for a long period of time. But we're moving from an infrastructure perspective. We're slowly gaining market share quarter on quarter. So the message is getting out there. We just need to accelerate it.
One of the questions here is, what do IT leaders need to consider when deciding if TruScale is right for them? Because when a customer looks at a technology, then they're not just looking at it from is it powered by Intel or is it powered by AMD? They're looking for what's the backup service like?
Mm-hmm.
How do they maintain this kit? And you guys must have a lot of facts and figures to deliver this.
Yeah, so when they're looking at TruScale compared to know, if they're just going to buy the hardware, we need to look at what the financial benefits are for them to do that, because there will be some. Obviously we talked about earlier is the freeing up of their resource to implement it. Also what technology and what problem are we trying to solve for that business, or what transformation are we trying to help them with? So we need to look at how our technologies will fit with that. We have a lot of alliance relationships with the likes of Microsoft. You mentioned Intel and AMD, but we've also got with the likes of SAP, Red Hat, Nutanix. So there's a lot of technology that we have that we know work with Lenovo, because we have ready-to-bake solutions that we can deploy into customers' requirements today. So they get that assurance because we have those relationships with these other big vendors out there that can help fill the problems that they may have from an IT perspective, or not necessarily a problem, but also what they're trying to do in terms of transform or change their business from an IT perspective.
Yeah, we mentioned that tech is moving at a super fast pace with processors, and I think even at the Accelerate event you had Snapdragon now.
Yes.
So you've got I know Snapdragon's been trying to bite on the heels of data center, but it's you've got kit.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of thing that I quite like about Lenovo. You're not just sitting on your hands selling the normal vendor's kit. You're also putting it out there that we're offering something different.
Yeah.
How do you see TruScale moving forward over the next couple of years?
I think that's a good question. A lot of it will evolve around how AI evolves, I think. We work closely with, the likes of Microsoft, as well as I mentioned the likes of Nutanix and things like that. So as they evolve and they deliver more solutions, I think TruScale will probably sit alongside them, or will incorporate more of those technologies into the TruScale offering. So, like I say, we're about to make it more flexible, certainly for the smaller organizations. So I'd like to see it getting, I'd like to think it's going to get more traction within that small business space over the next year or two. But, we will make changes to it in terms of how you can monitor the performance of the TruScale that we've deployed. At the moment, we have a portal which kind of shows what your usage has been. We'll adapt that, we'll change that. Depends on what, we're going to be able to maybe do multi-tenancy and how we can split that out. So there's going to be certain things that we need to be able to do from the portal perspective. As customers want to move away from VMware, what other technologies can we bring into the offering that gives, a good replacement or a good alternative to VMware, that the customers are looking to make that change. Because at the moment there are some, but I hear from customers that there's nothing out there quite matches VMware for them to make that full switch or make that big bold step into a world that they have been
familiar with.
Yeah,
They've been familiar with it for years. TruScale, you also have edge devices.
Yep.
And TruScale can cover those devices on the edge as well, can't it?
Yes, correct. Everything that we have within the Lenovo portfolio, we can incorporate into a TruScale infrastructure. So that's the storage, the edge, the traditional servers. It all depends on what the customer needs. We can incorporate in that.
Motorola phones.
Yeah, so we have the Moto, we have the PC. They're kind of treated separately from a contractual perspective, but we can certainly wrap it into a total solution. With our line is, from pocket to cloud. So we have everything that a customer could potentially need, from a mobile phone through to PCs, through to everything putting into a data center to fulfill their IT requirements. And then we have the third-party technology and the alliances to then complement that and give them everything they possibly could need.
If you had one piece of advice for a business moving forwards, how would they future-proof their IT, and what would that be?
So I think TruScale gives them that capability to future-proof from to a point, in terms of we can, if we look at how we're going to deliver a TruScale solution, we would build in enough capacity for them for the future as well, for what they might need in 2 to 3 years' time. So we can build in enough compute power, enough storage power, and if we build it on a variable basis, they may only use 40% of that compute power for the first year, and it might then start to increase over a period of time. So with TruScale, they get that flexibility from a technology perspective. We give them the flexibility from a financial perspective as well, because we can look at the construct of that, in terms of how they want to be billed, whether it's variable, whether it's fixed, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, whether they want to make an upfront payment. So we give a lot of financial benefit as well. But a lot of it will come down to delivering of the solution, meeting their requirements, not just for today, but we will take into account what they may need for the future as well.
And last question. Are there any key verticals that are jumping on the bandwagon first?
Not any specific verticals. I've seen solutions being delivered for TruScale into banks. Obviously, we've got the automotive as well. We're looking at solutions with Formula One. It'd be interesting to see what we do with FIFA, whether some of that sits on a TruScale platform. It certainly hits some sweet spots for retail and manufacturing, in terms of what can be seen from their traffic or their usage then might have peaks and troughs. So a variable solution of TruScale could work for a retail manufacturing. AI is going to, I think, could open up doors into more verticals for us. Can do some fantastic AI solutions for education, deploying or utilizing camera technology in schools, to pick up on certain behaviors that are happening in schools. It'd be interesting to see how AI drives in certain verticals, and how that works from a TruScale perspective. MSPs, certainly they've been looking at this technology, because from an MSP perspective, a fixed monthly billed amount for an MSP works, because that's how their business model is, because they're a service organization. They're billing their customers on a monthly basis. So we're seeing a lot in Europe from an MSP perspective. It's probably one of the biggest at the moment.
Well, Tim, thank you for coming in today.
All right. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for the time and thank you for the opportunity to have a chat with you.